We're on.
Okay.
I don't have a card now.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and open the meeting. It is now 6 p.m. We're here at the Public Safety Complex. This is a joint meeting of the Select Board and the Finance Committee tonight, and I'll allow the Finance Chair to open his meeting as well.
So open.
All right, first on our agenda is we have a presentation from BayPath Vocational High School. Come on up, yeah. If you want, you can present right from the podium or wherever you're comfortable.
I can do it right from here. So, good evening and thank you. I'm Kyle Brenner, the proud principal of BayPath Regional Vocational Technical High School. And I have with me...
Superintendent.
Superintendent. Oh, superintendent. Thank you.
You just got promoted.
So, yeah, proud superintendent of BayPath Regional Vocational Technical. I have with me Irene Hool, our business manager, this evening as well. She's there to help out.
Yep.
So tonight we're presenting our FY24 proposed budget. We'll start with our funding sources. Our funding sources are Chapter 70 and Chapter 71 estimates that are based on the governor's budget that was submitted on February 23rd. Our estimated Chapter 70 funding for FY24 is $14,219,280. Our estimated Chapter 71 funding for FY24 is $1,253,844. These are preliminary estimates subject to change as the House and Senate deliberate on the budget. So the impact on BayPath, you can see on this slide, is our FY24 Chapter 70 minimum contribution in our required net school spending, as well as our FY23 Chapter 70 minimum contribution in required net school spending. So you can see Chapter 70 was an increase of $1,325,599, and our increase in the minimum contribution is $718,993. And the increase for the required net school spending is a total of $2,044,592. FY24 total budget for assessment is $28,077,301. Our member town assessments are at the minimum, and our budget includes a debt service assessment of $1,553,503. Our operational budget does not require funds above the minimum contributions by our member communities, and our member assessment total is $12,392,443. Although the assessments are at the minimum, it's important to note that the minimum contribution levels that each town must contribute have increased collectively by $718,993. And our member town's transportation assessment has been reduced by $300,000, reflecting the use of our regional transportation reimbursement fund. The financial highlights are total Chapter 70 revenue of $14,219,280. Our school choice for assessment is $263,266. Our Chapter 71 busing aid is $1,253,844. And we will be using $75,000 from our E&D excess and deficiency to continue funding our OPEB liability. That's a $25,000 increase over previous years, and that was based off our auditor's recommendation to increase our funding for that. And we will use $100,000 from our E&D to fund net school spending obligation as well. I'll need my glasses. FY24 budget summary for the statement of assessments are as follows. Our Chapter 78 is $14,219,280. Our school choice assessment is $263,266 for assessment minimum contribution of $10,695,233. You can see our E&D OPEB transfer of $75,000 as well as our E&D net school spending gap from the previous year of $100,000 for an operational budget of $24,826,247. Our transportation budget total is $1,697,551. Of that, you can see the Chapter 71 dollars of $1,253,844. I just want to point out that's a significant increase from previous years as the state has moved closer to 90% support for that. Not quite the 100 yet, but 90% on that. Using our transportation reimbursement fund of $300,000, that leaves $143,707 for the assessment to our communities. You can see the debt service of $1,553,503, and I do want to point out that our principal is now higher than our interest on that, finally. There is no capital sewer betterment fee dropped off. This was our last year, so going forward, we won't be carrying that. For an FY24 budget for assessment of $28,077,301, our school choice again is $263,266 for a total of $28,340,567. And our FY24 total budget is $28,077,301. Our budget highlights. What will we be doing with the money? We'll be adding a new full-time equivalent veterinary science instructor to our recently started program. Next year will be the first year we have 4 full grades in that. This is a partnership with Second Chance Animal Services in Southbridge. A new veterinary instructor will be able to provide adequate instructor for all 4 grades of students in that. We'll be looking to adopt a BRIGHT program. This is Bridging Resilient Youth Transitions. It'll provide 3 things. It'll provide dedicated space, services, and staffing for students with social emotional needs. On that, we're really excited to be able to do this as part of our Student Opportunity Act program. It will add a new special education moderate disabilities teacher, and we'll add a BCBA to provide psychological services for that program. On this, it's called an MCAS specialist. It'll really be a testing specialist. This will be a teacher that will oversee all testing. MCAS, of course, is the largest high-stakes assessment, as well as access testing for our English learners, AP testing, and our trades testing and all that. This will oversee all those testing programs, as well as dive deep into the data and look at where our areas of strengths are, as well as our areas of needs to provide the support to our students and close that gap that became extremely apparent during the COVID and the pandemic. We'll look to add an instructional coach. This, again, is a non-administrative role. It's a teaching role that has no evaluative services, but we'll be able to go into our classrooms on a routine basis and identify our areas of strength so that we can provide those resources to our teachers through PD or observations, as well as areas of weaknesses where we need to bolster and provide PD in certain areas as well. And we'll add a guidance counselor for our freshmen. Our freshmen experience the most amount of transitions, having come from, their sending communities, not with their cohort of friends for 1st through 8th grades, as well as every 2 weeks for the first half of the year, they're transitioning to a different vocational technical program for the exploratory. This dedicated guidance counselor will provide the services they need, as well as reduce the number of guidance counselor student ratio to state-approved levels of 250 to 1 guidance counselors on that. We'll continue to use our Student Opportunity Act funds to provide significant professional development to all our staff, especially programs focused on social and emotional issues of our students. And we're happy to announce that the use of SOA funds this year will, or going into next year, will provide programs and speakers student-facing so that students help them address issues such as bullying, bias, mental health, and more. We'll create a full-time equivalent position for our athletic director. This currently has been done with a stipend position for a current teacher after school. Most of the MIA meetings and conferences are held during the school day, so we pull that teacher and put a substitute, which is subpar instructional services for our students. A dedicated athletic director will eliminate that, as well as the needs of an athletic director are far outpacing what is available after school for that as well. It'll also create a position for an athletic trainer through MIA. It's required at all football games, home and away. So this position will feed that need. We will add a new IT network technician. If there's anything good about the pandemic, it was the infusion of technology to our schools. With all that increased technology, we have increased breakage and maintenance for all of those. We'll create a full-time position for human resources specialist. Currently, that's divided among some of our business managers' duties as well as our duties. This will provide a dedicated person that can ensure that all the policies and procedures have been reviewed and understood, as well as all the onboarding and orientations are done on an annual basis on that. We'll upgrade our financial human resource software system, which currently is manufactured, discontinued, or no longer supported, right?
Yeah, it's end of life.
End of life, there we go. That's a mental block. Wage increases for all of our employees, as all our collective bargaining agreements are up this year, and we're currently negotiating those. And it will also fund the first increase in our health insurance premiums that we've experienced since 2018. We're looking at just over a 6% increase in our health insurance premiums. We will also adequately fund our supply and material accounts for the continued increase in inflation. As you know, in a vocational school, it goes beyond textbooks and papers. We have steel, welding rods, welding gases, all building materials. Wood have increased significantly, so we've included adequate funding for those increases as well. We'll provide textbooks for math, science, some of our shops, as well as social studies, and a large increase or infusion of new shop equipment for advanced manufacturing. Our CNC house machine is nearing end of life on that. Our metal fab will replace our MIG-TIG welders, and our health tech will update our non-functioning sim mannequin. And we'll also fund a building facility use study. We are currently at capacity for all our academic classrooms, so we couldn't take any new students if we wanted to. And most of our academic teachers are sharing classroom space for that. And some of our shops are at capacity, so a professional will come in, look at our building, and hopefully make recommendations on where we can move in and, more efficiently use our space for capacity. And we'll add a new full-time equivalent custodian as well this year. We move into freshman seat allocation. Here you can see all our 10 communities. Highlighted is Paxton, our capital population. And our total 10 towns are 17,769 capital population. Paxton accounts for 702 of that, which is 3.95% of the total ratio. And this is used per our district agreement for seat allocation of our incoming freshman seats, which would allocate 13 seats to the town of Paxton. Our foundation enrollment for BayPath, again, all 10 communities account for 1,232 students, and Paxton has 35 of those projected for FY24, which is an increase of 5 over FY23 for a 16.67% change on that. So the town of Paxton Foundation enrollment, Wachusett is 642 students, and BayPath 35 students, for a total of 677 students, which is an increase of 4 students over the previous fiscal year. And this just breaks down the FY24 required local contribution for the town of Paxton. Our current year FY23 required contribution was $5,093,579. The municipal revenue growth factor was is 2.93%. FY24 is $5,242,821. Excess shortfall local effort is $50,936 for an FY24 required local contribution of $5,293,757. And down below, we break out the town of Paxton for Wachusett Regional School as well as BayPath. BayPath foundation budget is $707,799, or 8.19% of that. And the FY24 total required contribution is $5,293,757. This amount is spread among all district based upon the foundation budget apportionment. And again, we break out the Wachusett Regional School District as well as BayPath, which we're presenting tonight, which is 8.19%, or an increase of 1.11% over the prior fiscal year, which equates to $433,507, or $73,088 increase over the previous fiscal year. School attending children report, we've been doing this since 2013, just presenting our school attending children report numbers since 2013 for all 10 of our towns, and Paxton is highlighted, and you can see that overall there is a decrease in students since we've been tracking this for the school year of 2012. And why is capital population and foundation enrollment important? Because that's how we calculate the statement of assessments. And again, we show all 10 towns for the maximum $10,695,233. Paxton's portion is $433,507. Foundation enrollment is 35, which equates to 2.84%. In transportation assessment, total of $143,707. $2.84% is $4,083. Capital population equates to 3.95%. We use that to the total debt services of $1,553,503, which equates to $61,374 for a total assessment of $498,964. So here we show the fiscal year 24, again in comparison with fiscal year 23. Minimum contribution $433,507 for an increase of $73,088, or 20.28%. Transportation, significant decrease. Paxton's apportionment is $4,083 as opposed to $13,031 last year, or a negative 68.67%. In debt service, $61,374, and that's a decrease of $2,202 from the previous fiscal year, or a negative 3.46%. Capital improvement is a decrease for a total proposed assessment of $498,964, or a $60,687 increase over the previous year. A lot of numbers. Thank you for your continued support, and we'll answer any questions you have.
Any questions on the select board?
I don't know.
No questions. I would like to say that I truly appreciate how fiscally responsible and the amount of services that BayPath does to provide to our young students. Year after year, for years, you've continued to figure out how to make trade education affordable, and I truly appreciate that.
Thank you. Thank you. We won't take all the credit. Our predecessors have laid the foundation, and we continue to build on that. We're really excited about the infusion for the Student Opportunity Act, that we can provide the services for our students this year. And that's baked into our foundation budget rather than a grant that'll sunset. So we're looking forward to providing those services.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I have nothing further. Mark, anybody on your committee?
Yeah, I have a couple of questions. I don't know how adept you are at going back to this.
Let me try.
the screen, but
Do you know what slide?
Down or left?
if you just kind of flew by slides 8, 10, and 11,
8.
that page itself, it looks like you're adding 8 positions. Page 10, you're adding a few. Page 11, you're adding a few.
Mhm.
Didn't do the math, but the takeaway is there's about 10 to 12 new positions. Typically, that's a lot in one given year. I guess I'd ask, what's your response to that? How needed are they? Were they delayed from prior years? Is this a wish list of new positions or a needed list of new positions, or
Sure.
help us out?
It's their positions and duties that have been split up among various people, stipended positions. As with everything, roles increase and responsibilities increase, and there's kind of a movement of a willingness to take those stipends, whether they're paid or not, to do those responsibilities. It's increasingly more difficult to get an athletic director to commit to a stipend for all the duties that and responsibilities that go along with that. So advertising for it, it goes unfilled. It's doing a disservice to our students in the athletics and extracurricular activities. So that's a needed position that we're moving to, and I think the majority of our peers have done that as well. Typically, there have been staffed by recent retirees who want to do it, but more recently, there's less of an appetite for that. So this position, again, as I said, most of the meetings and conferences are during the school day, so we're pulling that person from the classroom. Even subs are really difficult to come by nowadays, but when we do have them, it's not their instructor of choice. So if we can keep that instructor in the classroom, that's better. And if we have a dedicated athletic director, they can attend to all those duties as well. The athletic trainer is a requirement from MIA for all of it. If we don't provide it, we have to pay the town that we're at to provide an EMT there. The athletic trainer will fill that role, and that's needed. IT network technician, again, with the infusion of the technology, our two people just can't keep up with the maintenance and upkeep of all the technology we have in the schools, so that'll be a benefit on that. Human resources, again, as I said, has been a shared responsibility from some of our staff in our business management, as well as myself, and the roles and responsibilities, again, just haven't been done at the level they should be. So ensuring that the onboarding of all our employees have read the faculty handbook, policies, procedures, the tracking of code of conduct, and all of that stuff. And with the infusion of the Student Opportunity Act, this really affords us the opportunity to fill those and staff them at the level that they should be staffed at on that. So, and the guidance counselor, again, is an opportunity to provide the services for our students. And we're really looking forward to the BRIGHT program. Again, the social emotional needs of our students are at an all-time high, and having, again, the three levels, it's dedicated staff, dedicated space, and dedicated services for the students. So it'll reduce the toll it's taking on the current staff on them. So they're all necessary positions. We're hopeful that the budget stays untouched through the House and the Senate so that we can fill all those positions. If not, then we do have a priority of what areas would, fall off.
Okay, Kyle?
So, one more, if I can continue, slide 19.
Sure.
This is where the rubber hits the road. Notwithstanding Kirk's good observation in terms of the quality and caliber and all the good things that the school does, at the bottom of the line, you can see that a $60,000 increase is affordable as well. The problem is it equates to 13.85%, which is a big number. So that's the one the Finance Committee is going to have to focus on. We can only pass on 2.5% to our taxpayers, so there's a delta to be closed here. What do you say about the 13.85?
Okay, I'll take that one. Can everyone hear me?
Yep.
Okay, make sure I'm coming through on the air. You'll notice that it's actually a 20% increase up at the minimum contribution, which is set by the state. We literally have no say in that. Having said that, I believe you've seen an email. If you haven't, let me know. The state is looking for towns such as yours that may have had such a big increase that it's difficult, and they've got a fund set aside that you can apply for to say, hey, help us out a bit. Like you said, I can only pass on through levy, if I'm at my levy limit, 2.5% of this, but you've just increased me by 20%, at least in terms of this one. Now, how that looks total, with your Wachusett one, I'm not so sure. So that's part of it. But you'll notice that almost all of the increase is from the state mandated minimum. And a lot of that comes from the Student Opportunity Act, as Kyle was talking about before, which is why we have so many new positions. The state is literally asking us to say, so what are you going to do with all this extra money we've given you? Okay, remember from one of our earliest slides, our net school spending requirement in total went up by $2 million. Okay, that's quite a bit of money. So it's not like, oh, here's money, have fun. They have some very specific things they want us to do with it, and that's primarily address, okay, the students, the neediest students. The extra money came in our English language learners, which we've had an increase in, our low-income students, which have increased, our special education students that need a little more assistance, which have increased. So that's where those increases came from, and what they're looking for is exactly the type of things such as the Bright program, instructional coaches helping the teachers make sure, and I taught for a few years, a couple of years back. One of the biggest challenges I felt was trying to differentiate my instruction and meet the needs of all my students. So some of those positions, in particular the instructional coach, are to help teachers do exactly that. Because I think that's one of the biggest challenges for our teachers, particularly all of the teachers, academic and shop. I hope that answers your question.
It does. So can I follow up on that? We actually, the presentation you just made was dated March 27th. Somewhere along the line, we got an earlier presentation on March 6th,
Yep.
which had a grand total schedule in that first one. And if I'm reading this correctly, the grand total increase for all the member towns
Yep.
was the magic 2.5%. Am I
Okay, I thought I
dreaming,
brought that
or is
with me.
that good math or good results? Because that's the perfect slide, except when we
Okay.
get the Paxton one and it's 13.85%. So
Well, I know there's at least, it goes by your number of students. So part of why yours is so high is because from a percentage point of view, you've had one of the bigger increases in the number of students coming, even though the actual number of students is on the smaller side. But as a percentage, going from 30 to 35, that's, roughly a 15% increase. So that's where a fair amount of that came from.
which speaks to Kirk's point.
No, I thought I had brought with me, and I'm disappointed in myself that I do not have with me, because I meant to, the original one that you're talking about. So the March 6th presentation was the one that went to the school committee, said, here's our total budget. And then what we do for each town is we do a presentation like you see here, where we talk specifically about where your assessment comes from. Which is why we went through the whole thing on how the state calculates that minimum required contribution for you. So that's why it's different.
There are other members from the Finance Committee here. Can we defer to if they have questions?
Yeah, my question is all around the additional positions that you have done a very good job of explaining. What is the target for their implementation? I mean, for them being onboarded and
Next year.
next year?
Yep.
So you're hoping to have all these folks in place by August.
Right.
How is the recruiting going for that, being that we're assuming these things are approved and in place? I assume you have to make some assumption to move forward, because there aren't people just waiting for you to post so that they can apply for the job.
Certain positions there will be, but overall, I think you'll see that all the schools are having a difficult time with staffing
Correct.
on those. So it is our intent to have them in place if we can fill them. But again, we were in really good shape starting this past year where our colleagues were not. So we were, I think, 3 positions that we hadn't been able to fill. So we have been fortunate in staffing. We're hoping that holds true. Again, it would be ideal to have this out, but until the budget is approved, we won't advertise those positions. We tend to hesitate to advertise, anticipate it. We just want to advertise once we know the budget is in, and these are the positions that we are looking to permanently staff.
And do you, either of you have an idea as to when you're going to get the final approval from the state?
So two things have to happen. The first thing that has to happen is 7 out of the 10 towns have their annual town meeting and approve the budget. So at that point, it's de facto approved, because 7 is the 2/3 required. So that has to happen first. And then, of course, as the budget moves through the Senate and the House, we're continuously monitoring it. Usually by June 30th, it's pretty much, quote, a done deal. The final one comes out in July, you know, and sometimes the last couple of years, there's been minor changes to it. I'm sure in many years past, there have been significant changes, but the last couple of years, they've been pretty close to what was originally submitted. I will add to that in terms of your recruiting question, and it's a good one. Part of the reason for getting an HR person, another one, is to help with our recruiting efforts. There's a lot of the schools are now running, literally job fairs, on their campuses, and they do them for teachers. And, we'd love to have somebody able to go to those, so, because for some of the positions, not necessarily the right ones we're looking for, but particularly our teaching positions, we can take new teachers. We'd love to get, somebody fresh out of school, because they'll be joining a staff around them, that will help them and mentor them and bring them through.
Understood.
Yeah, so some of these more creative ways to find staff.
So basically, you have 60 days to 75 days optimally
Yes,
to staff your 12 openings.
we do.
Good luck.
Thanks. We like a challenge.
Challenge accepted.
And the superintendent's position is filled, is that right?
I am the superintendent, yes.
I know.
Do you know something?
I'm trying to give you a comeback in terms of your
Thanks.
opening remark. Yes.
I know, sorry.
Oh, that's perfect.
All right. Excellent. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay,
All right.
thank you very much.
So we are a little bit ahead of schedule. While we are waiting, we have Roselli and Clark that are scheduled at 7, and Wachusett is scheduled at 7:20. So while we're waiting, we can probably move on to other items on the agenda. First, though, I want to make a quick remark that we are going to be going into executive session at the end of the meeting to conduct strategy with respect to collective bargaining with the police union pursuant to MGL Chapter 38, Section 21.3. All right, so I have one item on the consent agenda, and that's to approve the meeting minutes from the regular meeting held on March 13th, 2023. Are there any objections?
No.
Hearing none, I'll declare that the minutes have been approved. And then we can move on to new business. We have a vote to remove all previous positions designated as special municipal employees, and then to approve an updated list of special municipal employees as of today's date. And I'm going to turn this over to Heather.
Excellent. Thank you, Julia. You see that on the screen?
Yep.
Okay. All right, so how this came up, we're actually working with an attorney for an ATB case. And usually we use Merrick and O'Connell, but unfortunately Merrick and O'Connell is conflicted out. So we had to work with a different attorney. And in doing so, he actually asked to make sure that the town council and special town council are listed as special municipal or designated special municipal employees for the town. So that triggered requesting from Donna the most recent documentation she could find. I think it's in everyone's packet. I don't know if it's in my packet here. I don't think it is. But the most recent list we had was 2012. That was last updated. So special municipal employees, and who knows if it's going to let me click on the link, it's probably not. There is specifications under Chapter 268 when it comes to conflict of interest laws, and it gives a little extra leeway 2 folks who are designated as special municipal employees in small communities that are under a certain population, and we qualify. That being said, the number one board that is automatically a special municipal employee is the select board. Everyone else has to be designated as such. The benefits are that, usually you can come and represent someone else in an adverse fashion against a town, right? An example is someone who, I'm just going to make up the position, someone who is we'll say, a conservation member who is also a realtor and comes before the planning board to represent their client, or a real estate attorney, right? They're able to come and say, okay, I work for the town, I'm considered an employee under conflict of interest, I serve on the Conservation Commission, and my regular time job, or when I'm not volunteering, is to be an attorney to represent someone before the planning board, and they come and speak on the opposite end, right? They're on the opposite side. They still have to file paperwork, but it allows them to do so with the special municipal employee designation. It's very common. There are 3 provisions, and I did throw them in here. So position has to be not paid, has to be a part-time position, which allows the person in that position to work at another job during normal working hours. Or the last option is the person in that position was not paid more than 800 working hours in the preceding 365 days. So what we did is we reviewed everything that was currently there. Some positions we haven't had in a number of years. Some positions weren't on here, and we thought they should be. So we were able to go through and update this. As we were doing it this morning, we were taking a look and going, oh, geez, we forgot the Cable Access Committee. So with that being said, I would like to recommend that we add that to it. The reason we said on the agenda to first rescind all the prior designations to clean the slate and then reappoint everything. Again, this is very similar to the concept of a policy, right? The select board can bring it up at any time. If someone says, hey, guys, you missed me and this is going to cause me a conflict in someone's personal life, they can come back and, we can look at it. The one thing to keep in mind, this has to do with the position, not the person. So it's not Bob in the position, it's the position of conservation agent where this could happen. And this kind of just protects everybody. Again, you don't want every single thing here because some things are going to conflict with those 3 different sections, right? But at the same time, you want to try to make sure we're covering as much as we can so we don't accidentally interfere with someone's personal ability to make a living or other things they need to do in their life. The example I gave earlier was just one of the relaxed provisions. There's a couple more, and they're all under 268. And if this hyperlink works, and it should on the PDF that's on the website, hopefully, you should be able to click on it and bring you right to the Massachusetts page where it gives you all the details on that.
Quick question,
Yes.
Heather. The prior document that we had in our documents that were sent to us had a sort of a catch-all at the bottom. What happened to that, and I see that it was removed.
So the state doesn't really like you to do that.
Okay.
They don't like to say, and by the way, everything else we miss. It should specifically be looked at every position and added here.
Okay.
So if there's other things that come up, again, remember, it doesn't take a lot to adjust it. It literally would be, for us, we generally meet every 2 weeks, so it's a 13-day waiting period if someone wakes up tomorrow morning and says, hey, I'm not on there.
Yeah. Okay. Any questions from you guys?
No.
Nothing? All right, so, we have one question in the audience.
Julie, does this cover the thing that you and I had discussion about with the CIPC appointment and my primary business?
I don't think so. That's a different type of a conflict of interest where you were actually receiving compensation from the town.
Okay, I
something
thought that was gonna be this catch-all that I was gonna fall into this.
No.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so hearing no further comment, I will entertain the first motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the rescinding of the list,
Existing.
Yep.
existing list as it stands right now.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. And I will entertain a second motion.
I will make a motion to approve the revised updated list as presented.
With the addition of
Well, yeah.
Who was it that we needed?
Cable advisory.
Cable, the cable access
The cable
committee.
access committee.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, so that's handled. I see Roselli and Clark have arrived. We're ready for you if you're ready. Thank you for being here early because we were ready for you.
Must have known.
Good evening. My name is Terenzio Volpicelli. I'm here being joined by Rob Briand. We represent the firm of Roselli, Clark & Associates, Certified Public Accountants, with offices in Woburn, Massachusetts, as well as Hopedale, Massachusetts. We were engaged to perform a financial statement audit for the town's financials for the year ended June 30th of 2022. Previously, a required communications letter dated today was provided to the Select Board. Some of those highlights, and I'm not going to bore everybody by going through the whole communication letter, but some of those highlights include management, which are the folks in this office and the finance team and executive team, are responsible for the selection and employing appropriate accounting policies. Accounting estimates and their related disclosures are integral parts to the financial statements. The most sensitive estimates pertain to those in the pension and OPEB liabilities, as well as allowances for doubtful accounts. Similarly, the disclosures for those areas are quite robust in your financial statements. I'm pleased to report that we did not encounter any significant difficulties in completing the 22 financial statement audit and didn't have any disagreements with management on any accounting, reporting, or auditing matters. It's important to note that the focus of our audit was the examination of the town's accounts to opine on the fair presentation of the town's financial statements taken as a whole. Our audit is not intended to identify and detect theft or fraud. We need to report to you that we've observed an uptick in municipal fraud and theft over the past year or so. Management is in the best position to address these risks given their oversight in the town's day-to-day operations. The town's 2022 financial statements were issued on February 2nd, 2023, with an unmodified or clean audit opinion. There were no internal control matters or deficiencies observed during the audit that would require formal communication to this board or any other board within the town. The town's 22 audited financial statements include the financial position and results of operation of the Paxton Municipal Light Department, which is audited by another firm. Our opinion reflects the extent to which we have relied on the other firm's audit in the presentation of the town's business-type activities, which also includes the town's water department. The fiscal 2023 audit will probably include a modification in the audit opinion of the Paxton Municipal Light Department due to its December 31st year end and the timing of the Worcester Regional Retirement System's biennial actuarial studies. This is nothing new, and this occurs every other year. The audited financial statements themselves consist of several key sections. The first is the government-wide financial statements. Those present the town's operations and results of its operations as if it were a full accrual entity, similar to, say, Raytheon or Verizon. Then we have the fund financial statements. Those are on a modified accrual basis. Those are the most closely related to the internal accounting used by the town to manage its day-to-day operations. That is referred to as the UMAS, or the Uniform Massachusetts Accounting System. We also have the proprietary financial statements, which are for the water and light departments. Those are full accrual as if they were business entities. We have fiduciary financial statements, the notes to the financial statements, and then there's some required financial supplementary information related to pension, OPEB, and budget to actual, as well as the management and discussion and analysis section that precedes the financial statements themselves.
in the governmental funds statements, the town ended fiscal '22 with a positive fund balance of nearly 4.5 million. This fund balance was nearly 200,000 greater than the prior year. The town's general fund, as reported on a GAAP basis, has been steadily rising over the past 5 years. The general fund has grown at a compound annual growth rate of 6.8 since June 30th of 2018. In terms of budgetary performance, actual revenues exceeded budget by approximately 200,000, while actual expenditures were nearly 400,000 under budget. The general fund's total fund balance represents over 14% of fiscal '22 expenditures, which was lower than the prior year's ratio of 16%. The town began reporting its ARPA fund as a major governmental fund in fiscal '22. Through June 30th, 2022, the town received half of its nearly 1.5 million allocation and has expended only 345,000 of it. These ARPA funds must be obligated through contracts or purchase orders by December 31st, 2024, and expended by December 31st, 2026. Under current federal guidelines, obligated does not include a plan by management, the select board, or town meeting. It must be in form of binding contracts or purchase orders or already spent. The town issued approximately 232,000 in State House notes in fiscal year '22, which were used to purchase DPW equipment. At June 30th, 2022, governmental activities bonded debt exceeded 3.7 million. In addition, the town also maintained several non-cancelable leases for the purchase of vehicles totaling 237,000 at June 30th, 2022. Long-term debt in the water fund is paid through utility rates assessed to users. The town entered fiscal '23 with a number of reserves. Certified free cash of approximately 565,000 and governmental and capital stabilization funds of approximately 561,000. The expenditure of these funds required approval of town meeting. The most sizable long-term obligation the town faces continues to be its net pension and OPEB liabilities. In looking at the town's general government activities, which excludes water and light, these two personnel-related liabilities approached 10.2 million at June 30th, 2022, which is 72% of total governmental activities long-term liabilities. The net pension liability is completely out of the town's hands, and as it is a participating employer in the Worcester Regional Transit or Worcester Regional Retirement System. Based on its most recent actuarial study, which is currently being updated, the Worcester Regional Retirement System was approximately 56% funded at December 31st, 2021. We expect the rate will drop significantly in the December 31st, 2022 valuation due to negative investments performance in 2022. The Worcester Regional Retirement System currently uses a discount rate of 7.25% and it is possible that it may reduce the discount rate to 7% in the near future. This would likely have an effect on annual assessments. The town's total OPEB liability is calculated using an alternative calculation method permitted under GAAP for organizations with less than 100 eligible participants. The town outsourced the calculation to a third party. In looking at the town's governmental activities, the total OPEB liability decreased over 1.2 million in 22 for the general activities. This was due almost entirely to a significant increase in the discount rate used in the most recent calculation, not due to plan design changes or funding by the town, which is currently 0. Approximately 8% of Massachusetts cities and towns have not set aside funds for OPEB.
Thank you, Rob. That was his first time ever doing this, so. Good job.
Did a great job. Where did he go to school?
Clark University.
Local.
Wow, isn't that funny? So finally, as part of our prepared comments, many times I'm asked, what keeps you up at night? And it really comes down to cyber issues, whether it be ransomware, phishing attacks, and whatnot. So we want to remind the town of the risks it faces, particularly related to phishing scams and network security. We spent time with the finance team to talk about some of the most common schemes that are out there. Things have gotten a lot more sophisticated in the land of crime. And phishing attacks are opportunistic. It does not matter the size of the community. It could be the small town of Paxton or the city of Boston. In January, just this past year, just a couple months ago, Nantucket was the victim of a ransomware attack. Fortunately, Nantucket had a very good remediation plan that minimized the impact on its operations. They lost roughly 6 hours of work. They didn't have to pay any of the ransom. They also maintained an insurance policy that covers the cost to address cyber attacks. So we just recommend that the town continue to be diligent in deploying its antivirus, its malware, and other security protections, which includes employee notifications, employee training in this area, because it's an area that, again, it's very opportunistic. One swipe of the key in an incorrect manner can lock out an entire organization. That concludes the prepared remarks that we have for the evening. I'm so used to sitting down at a table at the COA building. Are there any questions, comments, concerns that you would like to discuss tonight?
Any questions from the select board?
I have none.
None.
Thank you for coming out.
The floor is yours, Mark.
None. Very comprehensive.
Thank you.
So Trenzio, the management letter, we focus on significant deficiencies, material weaknesses, and should the takeaway be that there are none?
We did not have any deficiencies that we would classify as a significant deficiency or a material weakness. Very happy to report that. Oh, wrong one. The management letter this year includes a number of items in here. They're all informational in nature. Some recommendations in there, but again, they are all informational in nature. I wouldn't call any of these a finding. In fact, I think they're even called informational items within the report.
So during the development of the financial management policies, of which the auditor's audit report is a section of that, there was some discussion about, as you just mentioned, the report is dated February 3rd of 2023. There was some discussion about, is it at all possible to move the audit completion up? And we were reminded that we might benefit from a hometown discount by having it delayed. Is that true, or is it possible that this could be not taking a swipe at the good work that was done, but whether or not it could be more contemporaneous to the year end and delivered to us in November or December? Is that a possibility?
It's always a possibility. It's a matter of just working out the schedule, the timing of the year-end close, and then, to be frank, our schedules. You know, I'm certainly open to working with the finance team and determining what the timing of the audit is. Of course, everybody would like to have it done more contemporaneously, but there's only 18 of us in the firm. Not the easiest thing to do, but we can certainly work with the community to see if there's a way of getting it done a little sooner. I don't want to say quicker because it still takes the exact same amount of time. And we are at the mercy of the Worcester Regional Retirement System.
Yeah.
So this last year, I don't believe they released their report until October. So nothing was getting released until November at the absolute earliest this year. I don't know if it talks about it, but and Rob did touch upon it. The ARPA. It is important to note that a formal plan does not constitute an obligation, and we just want to be clear with that because you hate to be in a situation where you have to give back these funds.
That's, what was the number that you had obligated?
I believe it was a little south of $1.5 million. Does that ring a bell, Mark? I think it was
Okay.
just a little under 1.5 million.
But that's the amount, that's our total
That
amount
was the
that we
total
received.
amount, yes.
But what did you have as the amount that we had obligated so far?
Through June 30th of 2022, I believe it was 345,000 had been spent.
Yeah, so that number has gone up significantly since then. So there's a big gap there between, to Mark's point, between when you had done your audit and now getting the information. So it's no longer timely.
I don't think they'll have a problem spending the money before.
I don't think so. I don't think so.
2024.
But just for the town to be aware that there is I can think of one purchase that accounts for 700,000 of it, so.
Which one was that?
So, yeah, so definitely that number is much higher in terms of what's obligated. Okay, good. Any other questions? Hearing none. Thank you very much for coming in.
Thank you for having us.
Can I just say something?
Yep.
I want to just thank the financial team because they do a lot of work, and yourselves as well. So it's not a quick decision that you make. There's a lot of work on everybody's end on that.
There certainly is
So
a
thank
lot
you.
of work by
Thank
some
you.
seasoned professionals who are sitting over there. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Is that a motion to increase the audit fee?
Actually,
Negative.
this was our final year of audit, by the way. So if this is, if you would like to continue with our firm, just please reach out and we will work something out with you all.
Very good.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. We're still roughly 20 minutes ahead, and we don't have the school district here yet, so we can move on to the next item in our new business, which was to acknowledge a request from the Paxton Municipal Light Department to utilize this very room in order to put on a presentation regarding a feasibility study for bringing broadband into Paxton. Were they planning on being here? Okay. Do you have something that you'd like to say? Sure. Excellent.
So we put this on the agenda. This came up last week. As folks may recall, we have the policy to use this room, the training room use policy. I think it's called something like that. You guys have already reviewed it, I think, 2 or 3 times. We have the select board on it, we have FinCom on it, and we've limited it to that because we're trying to do a slow progression, see how things work, figure out kinks, make adjustments, and so forth. But there's not currently any provision for any use beyond the select board and the FinCom for that room as of today. That being said, we had received a request verbally, and then I asked Tara to put it in writing, and I think Donna had forwarded that request to everybody. To potentially use this room for a public presentation sponsored by the light company with their company who did a feasibility study on the potential bringing broadband to the residents. So it is a town board or committee or department, they're interested in this, and it's a large community presentation, right? It's a new idea, benefits all of the residents. So the question becomes whether or not this is something the select board is interested in expanding the policy for, and if so, how we'd word it. Would we word it as a, one-off request outside of FinCom and select board right now? Please come to both the select board and the departments in this building, just to make sure everyone's on the same page. I did clear it with the fire chief first, just to make sure he was okay with that. And I think as long as it doesn't have any conflict with other things going on, I think you'd be interested to see how it goes. For this presentation, it does make a lot of sense for them to have the benefit of the smart board, as well as cable access, being able to record it, as well as, if we're up and running on it, the Zoom capabilities to be able to bring anyone who's not able to attend the meeting in to ask questions and so forth, because this is a large potential option for residents if they were to move forward. So it comes back to the select board tonight to determine whether or not you wish to expand your policy to include one-offs, and if so, if the select board wishes to entertain their request for this. I believe the date on, I think, was April 11th, if I remember correct. Does that sound right, Donna? Something around April 11th, but they said they would happily extend it out if they weren't able to get an earlier time, or if the select board needed more time.
Okay. So I will allow discussion at this point. I have remarks I want to make, but I'll give it.
I think it's not a bad idea to expand our policy such that people can make a request to the select board, and based on the public impact that we would consider that. So that's my thought. What about you, Carol?
I agree with that. That's a good statement, actually. You say you asked the fire chief. Did you ask the police chief?
I did not ask the police chief independently. Fire chief usually checks in, but I've also been working on this room use through the fire chief. I can reach out to the police chief and see if he has any objections, but I'm happy to do as the board wishes.
And my thought was that if we were to do this, we would need to, obviously add a provision to the policy that it would be a one-off, and then put some, limitations on it, right? So it would need to be a town board or committee. It would be for a one-time use, and it would be, I think we need to be very respectful of where we are and whose room this is primarily, which is police and fire. I do think that both should have to sign off, that they would approve the use of the room and that they don't have any conflicts on that proposed date. As much as we're in here now for our meetings, where we have to remember that we're here at their behest or their, approval. So I think to Carol's point, we need to defer to both.
I also think, I agree with you, I think it should be limited to town boards, committees, departments. I think otherwise we could have this place filled every single night with boards.
And I agree with that, and specific to town boards and whatnot. I view this room as an extension of the town. It's the public safety complex, but it's the town's public safety complex.
It's public safety complex first.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But it still should serve the greater public as well. So that's my only comment to that.
Yep. So it's the name of this room is the training room. So this is where the police and fire conduct their trainings for their officers, and I think it's important, to make sure that, as our policy already recognizes, that we continue to recognize that they're the priority in this room. So that being said, is there a motion?
I would make a motion to amend the policy of the use of this room for town boards and committees.
On approval of the police.
On approval of the select board for special meetings and, I don't know if I want to say one-time occurrences or whatever, but.
Yeah.
How
I
would
think
you
that's
wordsmith that?
I think that it would need to be a one-time, not a recurring meeting, one-time use, and then at the approval of the select board as well as the police chief and the fire chief.
Yep. Did you get that, Donna? Okay.
I second that.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Just wait to make sure you're finished.
Okay,
Yeah, no, I'm finished.
so that's all
It's a
we
tough
have
one to kinda work
on our
there.
agenda. We can take a brief recess.
You want to do the TA
Unless you want to do
report?
the, yeah, sure, if you
That
have
way
a
we get
TA
that out
report,
of the
let's do
way.
that. Yep.
I was going for the brief recess.
All right, so here we go.
Where's my water? Did I not bring it in?
All right, so some updates on community happenings. Easter egg hunt. So I talked to Kathy Card from the rec. They are putting on a Easter egg hunt on Saturday, April 11th from 11 a.m. to 12:30. Ages, 0 to 10, but, probably need to be able to move around on the grass a little bit there. Easter Bunny will be joining us. There'll be a craft games. They'll also be held at the bandstand if the weather's not well, as long as, and I think Kathy was checking today, so Cindy, if you're watching, don't kill me yet. But as long as the Council on Aging is okay with it, in the event of inclement weather, the plan is to hold it there. If there's any questions, you can contact Kathy. Otherwise, it is a free event, and you do not need to pre-register. You just need to show up. Kids Summer Program is open for signups, ages 4 through 6th grade. Again, see the town's website for more information on that. Again, I have to plug, Paxton Days and Summer Jam is coming up. So please put it on your calendars for June 17th from 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. It will be at the Central Fields and Bandstand. It's free and open to all ages, music, food, games, food trucks, and other vendors. And if you're a vendor and you're watching this and you haven't signed up, contact Donna. She's very excited to get everybody signed up. Townwide yard sale, that's still happening as far as I know. Please contact Bob Wilby. It's on May 20th. It's a Saturday from 8 to 2. I do not have on here as of yet, but Memorial Day is coming up as well. I will have more information at the next meeting. I believe when I spoke to Robin today, she said it was going to be a kickoff at 10 a.m. for marching. So they are working on that. Other updates, departmental updates, IT. So Sean Mead from the fire department has been amazing and been very helpful to working aside of myself, mostly Sean. I'm just assisting Sean, I think is the way it goes. We're trying to work through the IT piece. As folks may have recalled from the last meeting, our IT person has left us after a number of years. So we're trying to figure out what our scope of services is so we can determine whether or not we need to procure a company or go with hiring an individual coming next fiscal year and figuring out what we need to do with that piece with limited funding. So we're working through those pieces. So far, everything's been good. The one project that has been occupying a great deal of time, and it's at the very end, but I won't make everyone wait till that, is the phone system. So those who are interested in the phone system, it is installed. It is now functioning with all the departments. Keep in mind, police and fire are still separate because they have the hardwired old school phones, and the rest of us have upgraded to VoIP technology, which is amazing and very exciting. Please keep that in mind, though, if you call Town Hall's number and you have to go through a couple menu pieces, it's just because we're getting used to our auto attendants and making sure we have the right buttons showing up. So over time, if you hear land use versus permitting versus building versus planning board, please stay with us. We're trying to make sure you get to Cheryl and find Cheryl with the fewest number of clicks. You can still hit someone's extension. It's a 4-digit extension and you'll get directly to their line. We're having one little glitch right now, which is anyone who's in a hunt group. So whenever you call, in order to get the best service we can, if you're in the office of multiple people, for instance, the town clerk's office, the phone rings on both Lori's desk and Hannah's desk, regardless of whether Hannah and Lori are there or not. However, we're having a little glitch because once you do that, if it's not live and no one's answering, you just kind of hang out on that ring. So we're making sure it connects to voicemail. So if you do call and you get frustrated, please give us a call back. Make sure it's during the hours we're there. And we are figuring that out, and hopefully with our training on Thursday, we'll all be up and running. But the good news is we can talk to each other independently. We can try paging. We're so excited about that. I think I'm the most excited person about that feature. And we'll see where those things go, but we can forward calls, we can plug and play. It is really a pretty cool thing. The DPW let me know they actually received a grant, a combination dynamic speed feedback in school zone speed limit sign assemblies. Please do not make me repeat that, because I will get tongue-tied on that. It is funding, essentially, it covers the installation of the electronic sign, or at least the parts for that sign. The install, if there's any costs incurred, we're on the hook for those pieces. So I imagine you might need an electrician or so forth, and that'll be over by the school. Nothing else is really happening. I do have on here the Community Compact Grant for HR procedures. We were finally able to get a hold of Mary Accardi this week, who is a point person. We've spoken with the person who works above her as well, Sarah, and we're trying to get that back online and wrapped up as soon as we can, so that we can get presentations to the select board and get those up and running before July 1st with any changes. State earmarks of funds, so I did not put an update on here. But we are going to be moving forward. We met a number of weeks ago, myself, Neil, Cheryl, Roberta from ZBA, and then afterwards we received interest from CMRPC, Central Mass Regional Planning Commission, that they'd be interested in doing the project. They said they had the staffing to do it, the time to do it, and dedicated people for it, and they had done a similar project over in, that was West Brookfield. East Brookfield? Okay, I had Brookfield in my mind, but geographics. So one of the Brookfields, they were very happy with their work, so we are moving forward with them. We should have that paperwork up and running and them rolling very shortly, and paperwork back to the state for the earmark. Other things here, security cameras for the school. Super exciting. Again, many thanks to Rick Berdard, who happily or unhappily, either way, stuck by my side on this piece and was extremely instrumental in getting us to finally move forward. We do have a pre-construction meeting on Wednesday, and if all goes well, they should be installed. Everything should be taken care of between April vacation and early summer, but we're hoping April vacation will be enough time.
Great.
So, pretty excited about that.
Thank you, Rick.
Trash collection RFP is out today. And we actually have it back, it'll be back before April, I want to say April 7th. We talked to our current vendor, because it's outside, it's an exception to Chapter 30B. We don't have to follow the specific requirements of those pieces to the letter, so we're going to do it a little bit shorter period of time. We made sure that our vendor would have enough time to bid on it. We're not sure who else will get in this late stage of the game, but we're hoping to have everything back, and if all goes well, we might have a proposal on the table for the select board to review on the 10th. So stay tuned on that.
That would be lovely.
That would be lovely. Lots of other projects on the list. Police officer, we do have 2 officers who have provided their notice and will be leaving to go to, I believe, Leicester. In the upcoming months, so those positions are now open. And then we talked about the building phone upgrade. I think that's all I have, unless there's any other questions. Oh, and I know it doesn't say on here, but I did get this finally up on the town's website, so anyone at home who's watching and is saying, gee, I wish I had these materials in advance, you now can. We will, to the best of our ability, post on the select board's website before the meetings. I don't know if I can get it there, but let's see. Right here, you just go to the select board, and then on the select board on the left-hand side, select board meeting materials, and they will be listed there for you. Now, we had a couple updates tonight. BayPath came in with a new presentation this morning, and so didn't Massachusetts. So unfortunately, the most recent updates are not there. But as of posting of the agenda within a few hours, or the next day, I think that was on Friday, we were able to get this up. So please check out here for future, and we'll try to reference this page on our upcoming agendas so people can check back here for the materials if they're interested. Only other piece I have, I didn't put on the TA report, but I don't want to forget. If you're watching this meeting and you'd love to see this meeting stream live on YouTube, please, please, please subscribe to Paxton's Cable Access TV. We are currently, I believe, around 75 subscribers. We need 100 to be able to stream live. So if you get up to 100, you can start watching Select Board live from your computer or your phone. Capital happens on Thursday nights. That's always exciting. FinCom is on Wednesdays. And hopefully, eventually, we'll get Planning Board recorded. And then they can broadcast and stream live. Look how excited Neil is.
Neil looks
You can just
thrilled.
see it.
Yeah.
So we'll get
Riveting TV, riveting.
But-
Still my heart.
Okay. Any questions?
Go ahead, Neil.
You
Oh,
mentioned
sorry.
the RFP for the trash system.
Yeah.
Can you just explain what we're doing? I'm not sure.
Curbside recycling and trash pickup.
Understood, but the RFP, so the contract, you're looking for proposals.
So it's a request for proposal. It's follows Chapter 30B, even though we're not required to do Chapter 30B, because trash is one of those exceptions.
Okay. So you put it out today with a reply or response date of 10 days from now?
Yeah, something like that.
All right, but I also, maybe I misheard you, so we're doing that because right now the only one that you think is going to respond is our current vendor? Aren't we kind of biting our nose to spite our face? Isn't there a competitive bid situation that may come into play here that may save the town some money?
So we are trying to do a competitive bid, Neil. The problem we're running into is because I've held up the process, right? I haven't had time to be able to put this together, and we're so close to the beginning of the fiscal year. We have to get someone committed soon, because usually these vendors like 6 months' notice. It's not that we're not trying to get more competitive folks. I would love more competitive folks, but unfortunately, I don't think we have the ability to leave it open by a month or so. We want to make sure we at least have the vendor we have who bids. I don't know if we're going to get other folks to bid in the first place because it's so close.
Could we
Well,
be,
if I can just add,
Please,
the
go
last time this went out to bid, Pellegrino was the only vendor that bid on it.
but who have we used in the past, over the past, let's just say 20 years? If it wasn't Pellegrino, who was it?
Republic,
Okay, and that's the only other one?
that's the only one that I know
All right,
of.
so if we had I'll use my words, a personal invitation to them to see if they would be interested, whether you, yes, responding, I'm interested, or no, I'm not, wouldn't that at least have 2 bids on the table? They may not even know that it's out there.
So I'm sending it to all of them, Neil.
You are.
So I have a list of all the vendors in the area who do trash, and they're all getting it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So what is the targeted number of vendors that you've sent the RFP out to?
So I have to hit go, but I have the list. So it is all of the ones in the area. So you have E.L. Harvey Sons, you have,
Waste
was it
Management,
Costello,
Costello.
Republic,
I'm
Waste
trying to get a sense
Management,
of scale. Are you talking 3?
Under
Are you
10.
talking 10?
under
Yeah,
10.
yeah, yeah.
Under
There's
10.
there's
10
not
or
that
under?
Between
yeah.
5 and 10, I
There's
think.
not that many out there in the first place, Steve, but we're gonna hit all of them. Whatever is out there, and that we can
All right,
find
to
an email
Neil's
address.
point, though, you should be getting, if they respond, you should be getting some sort of
Yeah,
competitive.
but I mean, just to give you an example, Steve, when we did the school security system, we put it out, I don't know, was it somewhere around like 15 to 18 different vendors? And we had 3 or 4 max that were interested and even responded.
Okay, well, it was better than 1.
So, but the whole piece there, so,
Okay.
all
thank
right.
you.
All right, perfect.
Seems like,
We're gonna take, oh,
Quick question.
sorry.
I have a question. Talking about the alarm system for the school. I believe $50,000 appropriated for that.
correct.
system. Was that enough money?
In order to be able to do internal, external, and fob access for the 2 main doors, it was $49,000.
$995.
945, yeah.
Okay. Several months ago, you gave Mark Love an article that I had taken out of the Weekly Telegram with regard to Charlie Baker's administration appropriating millions of dollars for school safety. Part of it was infrastructure. I passed that along to him. Has that been gone to your office? Has anybody looked into that possibility of using state money instead of our own money?
So I believe that's that, if I remember the specific article, there were certain ones that the applicant had to be the school. And I know the schools looked at various opportunities for security in all of their systems. And when they do their presentation, I think the superintendent would happily address security and funding.
Very good. Thank you.
So just quickly, Heather, you made mention of Rick, but I don't think it can be overstated that Rick Bedard's involvement with the security system at the Paxton Center School. He contacted Capital Improvement Planning Committee, contacted your office, and I would say was the driving force behind actually getting it done. So, Rick, thank you very much.
If I might, Julia.
Yeah, go ahead.
To your question, there might be other opportunities for the grant money. I'm sure the superintendent will go into that. But even with the cameras and what we're spending for the 50,000, there might be other things that needed to be addressed that we could use some grant money for.
Yeah.
Collectively, put it together as a safety program, definitely under a grant like that, specifically, especially today's news, another school shooting, definitely the money is out there. If you do a comprehensive plan, emergency management plan, you're going to incorporate everything you want. And you could even probably, if you really know how to put it together, the lights for the field, because if you know about an event, when the first responders arrive, they stage. When the school's evacuated, they have to be in the staging areas. This could go into days or nights. So if you write a very comprehensive grant, you incorporate it all, and you could save another 80,000 out of that with that. Something to think about.
Okay. Neil, go ahead.
Comment. I just wanted to thank the board and your assistant Donna for hosting tonight's meeting on the Sun. And Heather.
That'd be me.
All right, listen, whoever's gonna get the accolades, just stand up and take them, because I drove by the other day, I almost drove right into one of the signs that said, "Hey, Crap, they got the calendar up on the board there." So that's very nice to see.
We're
We're gonna have
glad
to
you
put some
noticed,
stanchions
Neil.
up.
Yeah, that's right. Put bollards up. Thanks for putting them here.
Okay. All right, so with that, we're going to take a brief 3-minute recess so that the school can get situated. And those of us that need to...
There goes your jacket.